On.
Hello and good evening. Today my partner Kevin and I will be informing you about popular voting in the Electoral College. Can I get a show of hands on how many of you know about our country's Electoral College? That's good to know. Most of us are voters, so this definitely pertains to you. I'll begin to inform you about the historical aspects of the Electoral College, detailing on who made it, when it was made, and how it exactly works. The Electoral College was formed by our founding fathers who wrote the Constitution. This was written in Article 2 of the Constitution. The Electoral College is the body of people who actually elect the president. Each state has a number of electors equal to its number of senators and people in the House of Representatives. The candidate who gets the most votes in a state wins all of that state's Electoral College votes, according to Article 2 of the Constitution. This Electoral College was developed by them as a compromise between a president elected by Congress or one elected by the popular vote of the people. The founding fathers feared that if the president was elected by Congress, he may feel some later obligation to Congress. That might give Congress a little bit more power than they already have. They also felt that the American people were not well informed and mature enough to elect their own leader. They finally decided on the Electoral College that is even used today, so therefore our founding fathers wrote it up into the framework of our Constitution that was adopted September 17, 1787. That sums up the history behind the subject. Now Kevin will talk to you about what makes the topic of discussing such a debatable issue.
Thank you, Josh. As he said, my name's Kevin. What Josh was trying to explain was how and when the Electoral College came to be the way we select the president. Being that it was over 200 years ago, you'd be surprised to find out that it's still a pretty passionately debated topic every 4 years. Before we get into the persuasive portion of the debate, let's take a look at what makes this such a hot issue. The main question is, should we switch from the Electoral College form of voting to the popular vote? According to an article on the History News website, a lot of people, the large majority, think that to keep the election as fair as possible, we should switch to the popular vote and abandon the Electoral College. On the other side of the issue, a lot of people believe that the Electoral College is the best way, that the president should be elected and we should keep it in place. There are many groups and people on both sides of the fence here. Some people go one way, others the other way. What Josh and I are going to do is debate the question I just laid out for you. Should the Electoral College be abolished and replaced with popular vote to elect the president? Josh is going to begin the persuasive portion of the debate with the reasons he's in favor for making the change to popular process, and then after which I will make an argument that is in favor of the Electoral College. So without further ado, Josh is going to take over this persuasive speech. Thank you.
Okay.
Could it be possible that the voter turnout, since the beginning of our nation, is slowly decreasing due to one reason being because there is no popular vote in our country? I believe the answer to be yes to that question. Yes, the founding fathers did decide to make the Electoral College, but according to Stanford Pulitzer Prize winning Jack Vote, that should be revised. He believes that the founding fathers would agree that it is time to change 225-year-old Electoral College. I have three very important points as to why there should be popular vote instead of an Electoral College. Firstly, the public is well educated enough to know which president to vote for. We do not need delegates to decide this for us. Secondly, historically, there have been flaws in the Electoral College as to who the rightful president should be. Thirdly, not every state is truly competitive when it comes to voting. Only a few major states are really effective in determining the next president. One major reason as to why the Electoral College was created was because they believed the public was not educated enough. So they placed our trust and votes with delegates of the Electoral College. Nowadays, I do not think this is a problem one bit. Show of hands, how many people have access to any type of media that informs you on presidents and their policies? Good. At one point, 98.9% of Americans owned a TV. Through the TV, people can watch the presidential debates that help Americans decide what president they want to elect. There are also public areas that have live TV, Wi-Fi hotspots for watching live TV, and through the internet, you could read vast sources of news online. Our society is a lot more educated and technologically advanced than it was back in the beginning of our nation. Therefore, we have better means through social media of making decisions on the president and also educating ourselves on electing the president of choice through popular vote. In addition to America's increased knowledge on knowing about presidents and their policies, another point is there have been flaws in electing presidents due to the Electoral College. If a state votes and the outcome is 49% of the people choosing for one president and 51% choosing for another president, 100% of the electoral votes goes to that 51% of the populace in that state that voted for that particular president. In 2000, George W. Bush defeated Al Gore in the Electoral College, winning president despite losing the popular vote by 500,000 votes. That's a lot of people. In 1888, Benjamin Harrison won the presidency by a wide margin in the Electoral College too, despite losing the popular vote. I just do not understand how 500,000 votes can really justify someone into the Oval Office. Furthermore, is voting in every state truly competitive? What is the point in voting for a state with only 3 electoral votes compared to a state with 55 electoral votes? That means almost 20 other small populous states that all agree still will not trump that one big state. Is that really fair? According to Jack Revote, this problem would disappear if we had a truly national election with one electorate and votes counting the same wherever they were cast. Then the candidates would have to think more creatively about how to mobilize a national electorate. Rather than pouring money into the televised advertisement, then must drive voters into battleground states completely bonkers. The parties would have an incentive to attract voters throughout the country, which is now a matter of complete indifference to them. A popular vote would completely eliminate this and allow presidents to travel everywhere to gain support for their vote, not just the larger states. And everyone's say would matter in the issue. Does this look like America? This doesn't look like America to me. It looks like a completely different country. This is a map of the electoral votes. It shows California, New York. They're humongous compared to North, South Dakota, Alaska. Florida's pretty big, but that's a complete coin toss for voting. In conclusion, is America truly working as a true democracy if we are not letting all our voices be heard in electing a leader for our nation? Now that I have informed you on what is truly happening behind voting in America, I encourage you to go further, do your own research on the matter, and learn even more on what's going on behind votes in America. Here's Kevin.
Thank you, Josh. Now let's talk about what's really important in this presentation. As mentioned earlier, our founding fathers, with all their wisdom, put the Electoral College in the most important historical document in our nation's history. My goal tonight is to help you to look back in time and see into their minds and see why they thought it was as important as it was, and why it holds true today. In fact, according to historian Judy Best, the Electoral College was the only part of the Constitution that everybody agreed upon. I'm going to try to explain to you why it is looked at as why it was looked at as such a good idea back then. We have 3 reasons why we need to keep the Electoral College. First is the system ensures that we have a trans-regional president. Second is the system ensures the sure and clear winner in the election. And lastly is that the people were never meant to have control over who was elected president in the first place. Now let me explain to you why these 3 reasons are good things. The first one ensures that we have the transgender, I've done that so many times, trans-regional, and he's not transgender, although he could be, president. By trans-regional, I mean that he has to worry about how the entire nation, all the regions in the nation have to, what they think about him, not just one region. An article from George Mason University says that the Electoral College prevents the election of a president that is only popular in one particular region. This is true because in a popular vote, the president could be elected by only campaigning in the largest population states. If he could win the majority of votes in California, New York, and Texas, he would only need the minority in the rest of the country. So as president, he would inevitably show favoritism for the states with the largest populations. It would create discrimination towards the smaller states as they would be viewed as unimportant. Next, let's look at how the system ensures a clear winner of the election. For this, it's easiest for me to explain by looking at the 2000 election. While it was a good example of how the popular vote can be different than the Electoral College vote, it was also a perfect example of the inherent problems with the popular vote. It says on the Federal Election Committee's website that it took 39 days to recount Florida's votes. Can you imagine if there was like a national recount of votes ever? It would, even if it was just a few states were required to do a recount, not only would it be really, really expensive, it would take more time than what's available. We only have a certain amount of time from the end of the election to confirm the president. The last of my points is that the people were never meant to have control of the office of presidency to begin with. The Founding Fathers knew exactly what they were doing when they created the Electoral College. In the National Archives and Records Association, the makers of the framers of the Constitution purposely put the power to elect the president in the hands of the states. The Electoral College supports the elaborate checks and balance system that's already in place throughout the rest of the government. It puts that in place for the elections as well. The Constitution puts check on the otherwise unchecked will of the people by giving the states the overall authority when it comes to electing the president. It could go on and on about why the system is crucial for our government to function properly. But with limited time, it's just important that you all know the Electoral College system is working exactly how it was designed to do in the Constitution. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Josh for a minute to give his rebuttal.
Thank you for your thoughts, Kevin. I believe that America should adapt to using a popular vote over an electoral vote because the electoral system is just way too old and flawed. My opponent said some interesting things, like the system ensures that we have a trans-regional president. He said that we will get a sure winner in the presidency. He also said people were never meant to have control over the president. But last time I checked, this was a democracy. To the people, for the people, and by the people. I do believe our society is educated enough to have their votes heard, and I do believe there's a sure winner with a popular vote, not a fake winner. For these reasons, our current regime should be a popular vote. Thank you so much for your time. Now, Kevin, for rebuttal.
Thanks, Josh. A lot's been made over the states, how much does your vote count, and the states, the bigger ones, California, with 55 and the smaller one with 3. I want to take a look real quick at this graph. I had a real nice one made up, but if this is gonna work, if I can get it to zoom out here.
Just hit the negative button and raise the arm
Negative
up.
button.
The minus under zoom. Okay. You lift the arm up as high as you can get it. The actual arm that you're holding with your left hand. There you go.
Okay, you can get a good idea of what I'm gonna talk about here. Tilt your head really hard. The populations of these states, California, Texas, and New York are the biggest, with Florida coming in behind it. If you took just the popular vote, you're gonna have, and this president, he went and he worked hard and he got California, Texas, and New York alone, not even including Florida. If he gets those 3 states and he gets the majority of votes in those states, he's gonna win the election. And every state that's in this area and behind the actual states is not going to have a say in the election. That you could have 100% of all these other votes go towards the opponent. If you got this state, this state, this state, and this state, you would win the election. Now, it's going to create a lot of discrimination towards the smaller states. I can't think of the person's name, but he said a true democracy ultimately leads to tyranny. What he means by that, I think, is that you can't have just 4 states representing the whole country, and that's exactly what would happen in the popular vote. They're not going to put any time into the smaller countries that they're anything like that. Lastly, about checking that the United States is a democracy. It is a democracy, but it's not a direct democracy, which is what popular vote. So we have a representative democracy. We elect representatives to do our bidding, if you will, for us. And that's the way it always has been. That's the way I think it should continue to be with the Electoral College being our representatives. Thank you guys. A little conclusion here. To wrap things up, I want to thank you all for listening, and I hope you walked away knowing a little bit more about both sides of this issue. If you have any questions, you can feel free to ask Josh or myself after class, and thank you guys all for being here tonight. Thanks.